All right, welcome back to the Contrarians. We're back at it again. We've got another fun panel discussion for you. This one is interesting title, to say the least. This is your top favorite female vocalists that leave you entranced. No, I didn't read the title, so I might have got the exact verbiage wrong there, but you get the point. So if you like the Contrarians, if you want to join the discussion, you can do that in the comments. There's always a second debate, in the comments after the episode, so you can get on in there. You can also, share the video if you like the content. There's the like button, there's the subscribe button. There's other ways to support the channel in the description, but we got a big panel, so lots of people, so we're going to just dive right into it. So I'm going to start with Bill today. Bill, why don't you give us your top 3 female vocalists that whose voices leave you entranced?
All right, thank you, Nick. Greetings, everybody.
Greetings.
All right, this was the interesting part of this in particular was the subtopic. There's a subheading, the in trance aspect, and that definitely affected my choices. These are not necessarily my all-time favorite female vocalists, though they are among them, but I chose them because in different ways they each do entrance me. My number 3 pick, one of the greatest singers of the 20th century, Miss Sarah Vaughan, Sassy, the Divine One. The first time I heard her voice, the song was from this album, Sarah Plus 2, and it was her version of a song called Key Largo. It was on a record I checked out from the library back in the 80s, and I'd never heard anything quite like that angelic voice. And I still never have. She had an amazing instrument, and I really was entranced when I listened to that song on the record. I had to keep going back to that track. It was a various artists compilation, but she stood out like a shooting star. Yeah, still a big fan of Sarah. Legendary. To a completely different genre, which my wife and I have debated. Some say she's country, my wife, and mainstream folks back in the 90s said she was country. I disagree. I think she's a bit more of a general singer-songwriter, and that would be Mary Chapin Carpenter.
Nice.
She's in particular, probably her most famous album, Come On, Come On. The popular songs were stuff like I Feel Lucky and her version of Lucinda Williams' Passionate Kisses. But the title track, Come On, Come On, I'm a Town, these deeper cuts, these are the ones where her voice, it's soothing, it has a very feminine aspect overall, but it also has this husky masculine quality that she can bring in at will. And somehow her voice just calms me. And so the trance aspect for that to me is that calming effect. When she sings those songs, I just want to turn into a little baby and have her rock me in her voice. It's just warm and comforting. And yeah, that's pretty amazing. My number 1 pick, though, is kind of an oddball. My wife actually called it back around the turn of the century. There was a commercial that used to come on when our son was 6 months to a year old. There was an album that was sold over the television called Voice of an Angel, and the artist was Charlotte Church, and she sang traditional religious songs and classical songs. And every time that commercial came on, our not quite toddler son would cry and scream his head off when she started singing. Apparently, Charlotte's voice terrified him, so not a rousing endorsement. Fast forward to about 2013, I was on the Progressive Ears message board, and people were talking about Charlotte Church and her cool new music. And I was like, wait a minute. Voice of an Angel, really? The one that scared my kid way back when? You got to be kidding me, right? At that time, Charlotte was putting out a series of EPs, imaginatively titled 1, 2, 3, and yes, 4. But these EPs are a far cry from the music she was doing as a kid. This is her as an adult, full-on artist. It's musically, it's very modern and experimental and kind of all over the place. Each EP is different. There are hints of like Radiohead sort of stuff. I'm not going to say that's a direct comparison, but that's the general vibe, that sort of experimental nature there. But her voice, as an adult, it matured to such a level that, yeah, it gives me chills when she sings certain songs. It's so effortless. And no other voice has had quite that effect on me. The only problem is she put these 4 out between 2012 and 2014, and she hasn't put out another since. She decided she was going to raise her kids and get remarried and get involved in UK politics and mostly ignore her musical career other than occasional live appearances, which, as somebody who fell in love with these albums, as you can imagine, is extremely frustrating. But how dare an artist ignore their fans and try to have a happy life, right? But if this is all I ever get from her, it's a nice couple hours worth of music. I'm pretty happy with it. I would absolutely recommend sampling. You can go on YouTube and check out Glitter Bombed from 2, Charlotte Church. No longer the voice of an angel. Much better. And that's my big 3. Thank you.
Cool.
Awesome. Thank you, Bill. That was great.
Great list. Guys, I can still hear you. I just got to go across the room and grab something to help me with one of my choices. So keep talking. I can hear you.
Oh, all right. Martin's getting props. It's great. Let's go over to Peter next. Peter, the floor is yours.
Thank you. It's nice to be here. I hope everybody's doing well. This list, like Bill said, is nearly impossible to narrow down, but I decided to focus on 3 artists that were introduced to me, but in my own house. As I've said before, I have 2 older sisters, 3 and 6 years older. And my mom, rest her soul, was a huge fan of music and was always playing things in the house. So these are 3 artists that I heard and learned about through my sisters and my mom. So it's a tie-in to my family. So my first artist, she is one of the most flexible. She can go from country to rock to pop to standards to Broadway to foreign language. Just the list alone of just her recognizable songs is impressive, to say the least. Desperado, You're No Good, Tracks of My Tears, Heat Wave, Crazy, Blue Bayou. And I have to include Linda Ronstadt. I have very seldomly heard a singer who had so much power, but could also be so gentle, delicate. She could deliver a ballad. She can deliver a standard. Her What's New album with the Nelson Riddle Orchestra is just fabulous. And she's just got one of those voices that just instantly makes me feel good. And again, she can go from hard rock to everything in between. There were very few singers who could sing things like, her cover of Tumbling Dice, just spectacular. So, it's such a sad thing that her illness has not allowed her to sing in the later part of her life. But we have a great lengthy discography of absolutely incredible 70s and 80s era classic music. So Linda's got to be number 3 and has to be on my list. The number 2 artist would normally be my number 1, except I'm going to put my mom ahead of my sisters. So mom's pick will go number 1. Number 2 is almost exactly the same kind of criteria that Linda has. And she's pure tone, pure silk, perfect pitch, perfect sustain, perfect vibrato, rich low register, crystal clear top end, and pure emotion. And I have to pick Karen Carpenter. When she sings, I almost don't even feel that it's at times even coming out of a human being. And the reason I mean that is there is such clarity and purity to what comes out of her. It is so colorless at times. It's just perfect. And this is, of course, we know her story, a tortured soul and someone who had a very difficult and way too short life. But these are songs that are absolutely ingrained in my musical history and in my upbringing. Again, the list of just songs that people would recognize off the top of their heads is very, very impressive. Plus, she was a really good drummer. And that was fun to see as well when you would see the specials on TV. A really well-rounded musician, but just such a gentle, kind, and soothing voice, almost healing, even in a kind of tortured, lamented kind of way. And there aren't too many singers who are able to do that while they're singing. And I have to say that the Carpenters' Christmas record is always the heaviest rotated in our house, as she just does a marvelous job with all the Christmas songs that they did on that record. So my number one pick was introduced to me through my mom, and it was a roundabout way because I was such a huge, and I am such a huge fan of Tom Jones. And because I fell in love with Tom in my single digits when he was really getting popular and the television show was very popular, she was the female Tom, or he was the male Shirley. And Dame Shirley Bassey, I just absolutely love her. Just Thunderball, I mean, just Goldfinger, Diamonds Are Forever, and Moonraker puts her on my radar as a huge Bond fan. But she could just literally sing anything. And just an enormous talent and huge, powerful voice. And it was a great, fun rivalry, as both of them are Welsh, and I have lots of Welsh in my ancestry as well. And so Mom would play Shirley's records, and when I was able to tie her to Bond, I was in. And if you have any doubts about the talents of this miraculous lady, if you look up on YouTube from the BAFTA performance earlier in 2022, they're doing a 60-year retro on the James Bond themes. And the 85-year-old Shirley comes out and just destroys Diamonds Are Forever. Original key, everything. She kills it. So, you know, this is somebody who I've loved as soon as my mom was able to introduce me. And so these are three very talented but very different artists. So Shirley, Karen Carpenter, and Linda Ronstadt round out my top three.
Very cool picks.
Awesome. Thanks, Peter. We're gonna keep it moving. Let's go to Andee next. So Andee, top three female vocalists that leave you entranced.
Okay. Well, before I go, Peter, do you know the Propellerhead song History Repeating that has Shirley Bassey on vocals?
You know, I have not heard that, Andee. Thank you. I will check it out.
I urge you to look it up. This is from, I think, 1998. I love Propellerheads. They did this really inspired collab with her, and it's a riot. So
she's just
highly
amazing.
recommend checking that out. Propellerheads. Okay, so all right, the entranced thing I kind of struggled with because I don't know that I really feel entranced all that often, unless I'm listening to trance, which usually doesn't have vocals. So anyway, so I have a bunch of candidates, and I'm going to pick the ones that I think fall closely as can be to that descriptor. Okay, let's see. I'm going to start with Liz Fraser, singer of Cocteau Twins. This is a favorite early one. This is Head Over Heels. This is the EP compilation called Lullabies to Violin. She sang on this ingenious third Massive Attack album. I saw her twice with Massive Attack. Her style is absolutely one of a kind. For one thing, she's kind of famous for singing in a made-up language. It's kind of this weird phonetic gobbledygook that just sounds beautiful. It's sort of just, she just kind of makes these not verbal, but these kind of audio vocal sculptures that she hangs her melodies on. She had kind of a weird, kind of a strange warbly affectation in the early records, like the first two records. And then she gradually blossomed into basically a near operatic singer, I would say, when you start getting into the latter day albums, things like, Four Calendar Cafe and Bluebell Knoll and Heaven or Las Vegas and all these kind of things. So I'm gonna go with Liz Fraser first, and second, let's see, I'm gonna go with Roisin Murphy, who was the lead singer of a band, sort of an electronic outfit called Moloko, who kind of hit the scene in 1997-ish with kind of an amalgamation of jungle and drum and bass and trip hop and big beat electronica. And her vibe is kind of this kind of purring Eartha Kitt-like quality. And they made 4 albums together, which I'm a huge fan of, all 4. The band got more kind of organic sounding as the catalog moves along, more live instrumentation, a little bit more kind of jazz thrown in. And then she just embarked on this insanely great solo career. This is probably my favorite solo album of hers. This is called Overpowered. Her latest album is called Roisin Machine, and it's a pure modern disco album. So yeah, I would say she's kind of a shapeshifter as well. Her solo catalog is pretty eclectic, and she kind of moves around and tries different things. She's got a cult following in the States. I've seen her once. I actually saw her in my neighborhood here at the Williamsburg Music Hall, which is a pretty small venue, probably under 1,000 capacity there. So yeah, I would say she comes from the world of kind of electronic and dance and kind of underground electronica, but she's kind of a proper chanteuse, because she's really just got these kind of smoky jazz inflected pipes, and she's very cheeky and very humorous and really smart, and she's got great music videos too. Okay, so Roisin Murphy, that's my number 2. Number 1, I'm going to go with Chaka Khan. This is an album of hers from 2004 called Funk This, and I mean, everybody knows who Chaka Khan is. She's obviously the most technical out of all these singers that I mentioned, I would say, arguably. She sort of has jazz chops. She's a soul singer. She's a funk artist. Her tone is like a horn. When she stacks these backing harmonies, it's like listening to a horn section. But she has this fun and this joy and this kind of smoky sensuality to her. I think actually there's a greatest hits album, and it's behind me somewhere. I'm not going to fetch it now, but there's a greatest hits that I think everybody should just have, because it kind of covers her earlier, Rufus days when she was doing that, kind of 70s funk thing, and then goes all the way into you know, her revival in the 80s with I Feel For You, the Prince cover, which is one of the greatest singles probably of the 80s. Just the joy that she brings into her performances. I've seen her live and she just lights up the zip code with her energy. She is just an absolutely breathtaking vocalist, but she just has this effortless, like she smiles when she sings, you know. So I'm gonna go with that. Are we gonna do any honorable mentions later?
I think we can probably squeeze in a few here and there. But why don't you, if you got a couple now, you can shoot them off.
Okay, I would put Billie Eilish in the entranced category. I think she's that kind of a singer. She's got just a honeyed voice and just the most beautiful, like, articulation and delivery. I would definitely put her in that category. I have other people here that I probably wouldn't say are entrancing necessarily, but I have to give Susie Sue a shout out, and I have to give probably my favorite female vocalist of all time, entrancing or not, Nina Hagen, who I have a lot of fun vinyl releases. This one, Fearless, is a great one to start with. So yeah, she's sort of like a precursor to Mike Patton in a way. She can do anything with her voice, from gabber noise and growling and humor to sheer operatic kind of cloud bursting vocalizations. So that's it for me. I concede.
Okay.
All right, awesome. Let's go to Uncle Meat next. Uncle Meat, and Joe we'll get you in soon. Don't worry, everyone can say hi to Joe. Joe's dropped in.
Hello.
Yeah, but Uncle Meat, the floor is yours.
Okay, so for my number 3, I guess I'm kind of starting at the beginning. They say you never forget your first, and I mean, after being exposed to Kiss at a very young age, the next thing I was exposed to was the movie Grease, and right from there I became a huge fan of Miss Olivia Newton-John, who we just lost recently. But there is a trance that her voice still brings, puts me in. It's like almost like a nostalgic trance. I absolutely love her voice. I remember I remember begging my grandfather to take me to the movie Xanadu, and loving that. And still now, when songs like "I Hopelessly Devoted to You" or "Magic" come on, it still puts me in a trance. I absolutely love her voice. There's a special quality to it, and like I said, like, it's what started me really appreciating the female voice. So that was my number 3. My number 2 is someone who is 75 years old right now and is still absolutely gorgeous, in and out. She is the Silver Fox, Miss Emmylou Harris. There is something about, like, you could easily say that the tone of her voice is extremely special, and you know it right away. And I can't tell you the amount of times I've been at a friend's place or at a mall, or there's a song on the radio and I'm not even really listening, but as soon as all of a sudden I notice, like, wait, that's Emmylou Harris in the background, now I'm paying attention to the song. So to me, that's almost the definition of a trance. Like, that's happened so often. And then people are talking about the sound of her voice and how special it is. And so I had to put her in there. And my number 1, well, of the very word trance, considering that this female artist pretty much put me into trance from 1994 to 99 or so. That is Tori Amos, who I became a huge fan of. It was very different than my prog and metal and fusion, and I got talked it into her debut album, which is just a great album. And she put out 4 straight albums that I just couldn't get enough of. I saw her live 7 times in like a span of 4 years, including an amazing thing where it was at Toronto's Massey Hall. I saw her on Saturday night, then saw a Sunday, like a Sunday afternoon matinee, and then a Sunday night show. And that was incredible. And considering that that Miss Myra Ellen Amos says that she creates her set list because the fairies tell her on the spot, it goes without saying that there was like repeats of like 6 songs in 3 shows. So it was pretty amazing. And her voice and her lyric content, you know, can really be gripping. Yeah, the first thing I thought with the trance thing is, you know, I really enjoy her first 4 albums or so. I kind of just didn't pay attention to a lot afterwards. It was almost like burnout on it. But I still absolutely appreciate her, and she had to be number 1. And there it is.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Uncle Meat. That was great. Let's keep it moving here. I just want to check in. Martin, you want to go next, or do you want the last word?
I'll go now.
All right. Let's go over to Martin then.
Okay, I'm going to ask you allow me to cheat for my number 1, and I've got an interesting story there, and I won't take a lot of time with my number 1, but let's and these aren't really in order. I'm going to explain how the number 1 sort of the number 2 and the number 3 in terms of quantitative accomplishment. The number 2 and the number 3 kind of have more of that, and I'll explain when I get to number 1. So my number 3. I'm going with Donna Jean Godchaux from Grateful Dead in this period. These are my 2 favorite Grateful Dead albums. And I love being here on this show because I want to play DJ and say, look, if I can get you to play a song that I think is an absolute masterpiece, go play Grateful Dead France. That thing is just a progressive, otherworldly, so interesting song, and beautiful vocals from Donna Jean Godchaux. You know, she was in this band. Keith Godchaux was in the band too. Keith died. You know, he's one of the many keyboardists who died, but essentially her voice is just so sort of angelic and kind of like detached, otherworldly, like I say. So yes, definitely check out France. But also From the Heart of Me, If I Had the World to Give. And then on this one, on Terrapin Station, you know, Sunrise is pretty much it. And then what I consider to be the missing Grateful Dead masterpiece album, it's Cats Under the Stars, Jerry Garcia Band, and she's on here too. And Palm Sunday and Down Home on this are absolutely, you know, they're almost like, you know, songs you want played at your funeral sort of thing. So this album, these 3 together make up the best of Donna Jean. I mean, they even had a solo album that actually wasn't that good, but it was Donna and Keith together. But that's that one. The other one, in terms of being a female vocalist titan that hasn't been mentioned yet, and I'm kind of surprised, is Kate Bush. You know, this one, you know, these earlier middle ones, but definitely Hounds of Love, which of course is newly popular again. And then my favorite is The Dreaming, which is the most complicated one. She's like the female Peter Gabriel, and we know she did that thing with Peter Gabriel, but she's just an absolute craftsman of these albums and a visionary, and the visual and the dance, and of course the lyrics and the vocals are amazing as well. So she's totally entrancing, and she's totally entrancing in terms of, you know, bringing this huge level of respect as just the entire package, like just a great artist. Okay, now my cheat is I have an interesting sort of 5-way tie for number 1, but these are all mystery women with one album only, with the kind of untidy exception of one. But I just want to go through these really quickly. And all of these are just, they're all going to be quick, but there's a couple of here that there's 2 albums here I've played more than the entire Kate Bush catalog, like hundreds and hundreds of times. But let's start with the Search Party, Montgomery Chapel. Her name is, I wrote down her name here because I didn't know it before. Okay, I've lost my notes. Don't worry about it. Joni Goff. So this is a 1969 one album only. It's kind of like creepy Jesus freak, to use that term that the Black Sabbath guys would use about being scared about, you know, evangelistic, you know, hippies in America. So this is a really creepy sort of Christian rock album. It's kind of like acid rock. It's a little heavy. She's on that. Grutna is the next one. Anna Rizzo. Only thing she ever did. This is like an offshoot of Jefferson Airplane Starship. Yeah, Airplane, I guess at this point. So really kind of late. It's 1972, so it's like hippie generation, but it's a bit roots rock as well. There's horns, and there's some really, really interesting songs on there. Not a lot, but the ones that are interesting, I've played hundreds of times. Going to Canada, Waiting for My Ship, with this really interesting lyric about selling her soul to the devil, but it's like an Eagles song almost. It's really interesting. And then the next one, another mystery woman, Shirley Kent, 1969 Birmingham band. This is one of those $1,000 albums. Mine is a Dutch bootleg, but it's made to look like the same thing. This is like psychedelic, satanic, occult music. Like, it's a little bit heavy. It's a little bit like Mark I Deep Purple mixed with psych. And she's the vocalist. I did some liner notes for the CD reissue when it came out. She wouldn't talk to me, so it was only like an email interview. But Shirley Kent, I'm going to tie this together in a second. And then the last one is Judy Dibble from Trader Horn. This is the only album that Trader Horn ever did. Judy Dibble, sadly, we lost her. Fairport Convention connections. We lost her in 2020. Now, the very interesting thing about this, and I did a half-hour episode on these 5 albums, I think, all together, and I brought in Donna Jean because she fits as well. The really interesting thing is I was playing these albums over and over hundreds of times in total, maybe 1,500 times, all of these records. Just, they seem to be in a rotation. And then it hit me like a lightning bolt one day. Every single one of these albums is dual male and female vocals. I could not believe it when I realized that. You know, often on the same song, often the guy would do a vocal on completely, the woman would do a vocal. And it was almost like one of those revelations where you look around and this is the way I phrased it in the podcast episode, I think, as well. But you look around and think, my God, the entire world runs on a multiple of 23 or something, right? Like, it's just this mathematic strange thing that I go, every one of these is dual male female vocals, which is really bizarre. I didn't tell you the main one. So this is the one I've played the most. I've played this record probably more than any record I've ever played. These Trails. It's a Hawaiian indie. It's slack key tuning. It's considered weird folk, WYRD folk. It's got some of the earliest synthesizers. This one synthesizer player who happened to be on the island. It was made in a great studio. Her name's Margaret Morgan. They only made the one album. She was like 17 or something. She had some issues, like she moved to America or mainland America and kind of got in with kind of hippie, different new age movements and stuff. I think she had some mental issues. I think we lost her in 2002. I tracked down her male partner on this and her sister and did a couple interviews with them because I was so obsessed with this record. I had to know what it was all about, and it is absolutely captivating. It's Nick Drake level acoustic playing, beautifully recorded, haunting vocals. There's a witchy weird one on here of Broken Links. Hello Lou has some really kind of sinister, strange lyrics where you think it's about Lucifer, but it was kind of dispelled that it wasn't really. There's Rusty's House about this famous Hawaiian surfer, and he'd always have his house open and you'd just show up and smoke pot at it and stuff. Rapt Attention. There's a 2-minute song near the end called Rapt Attention with this impossibly high vocal. It's just unbelievable when it happens. But yeah, I've definitely played this album 500, 600, 700 times. I've played it way more than anything we have here. So, and this is another one with the male female dual vocals. Blew my mind when I discovered that. So there you go. That's my sort of pyramid of quantitative accomplishment. It's Kate Bush is the most in that way. Donna Jean is next, and all of these mystery women with only one album, with the exception of Judy Dibble, one album ever, never did anything before, never did anything after. We got a 73, a 72, a 70, and 2 1969s. Very bizarre. There you go.
Awesome. All right. Well, that was great. Thanks, Martin. He broke the format just a little bit, but
yeah, I'm sorry, but I didn't know it was supposed to be 3 either. So I just had these honorable mentions, but I had to mention that story. Like I said, go check out the podcast episode on this. I don't know what it's called, but it was one of the really early ones.
Yeah. No. I mean, like, I think it was a good thing, right? It's we are contrarians, right? So it's a contrarian format. Let's go to Rand next, and then we'll close off with Joe after. But for now, Rand, floor is yours.
Okay, thanks. I'm not going to do what Martin did, but I am going to deviate from the format a little bit. I'm going to do a 3-way tie for first, because the 3 vocalists I'm going to mention, I can't rank them. They're so important to me, and they sound so good. And I'll just go in the order that I heard them. So, being 70, the first one I heard was a lady named Annie Haslam in a band called Renaissance. If you've never heard this band, I recommend this. It's live at the Carnegie Hall, and there's also a bonus BBC disc where they play all of Scheherazade, that whole thing from the side 2 of that album, which is amazing live. I saw it myself. But Annie Haslam's voice is it's just like pure butter. I mean, it's so enjoyable. I can't get enough, I just love her to death. And I got to meet her and I got to hug her, and she signed my concert ticket, and it was pretty cool. The next one would be a lady named Karen Lawrence in a band called 1994. This is a very underrated album. This album is a masterpiece. It was produced by Jack Douglas. It sounds as good as Dark Side of the Moon. This is a great sounding album. And Karen Lawrence, a lot of people don't know this, but you can barely see her. She's like right there. It's hard to do this because it's backwards. She is the daughter of Steve Lawrence and Edie Gourmet, and she looks just like Edie Gourmet and sings just like, she can do angelic vocals, and she can do Ann Wilson type vocals, and she can do Janis Joplin type vocals. And on a Jeff Beck song, which is a bonus track on his 1985 album Flash, she does a song called Back on the Street with him playing guitar. You have to hear that. You have to hear that to believe it. It's absolutely phenomenal. That gal can sing. And I got to meet her too in Humboldt County when they were doing a tour with Blue Oyster Cult. And they were playing at in a riverbank in the middle of nowhere. It was a big biker thing. But yeah, she was real sweet. And she had started a new band after 1994 called Blue by Nature, and they put out a couple of albums, but it was nowhere near as good as the 1994. And there's a second album called Please Stand By. Then my other vocalist that I love is a lady named Amanda Parsons, and she showed up in my life in 1978 also in this band called National Health. Canterbury band from England, and her voice is unfreaking real. It's just like she can go so high, and she's got that Annie Haslam tone. It's real pure, and it doesn't grate on your ears. But her singing is just unbelievable. And she's only done a couple of things. She did that National Health album, that first one. Second one came out. She's nowhere near it. She left. She sings a little bit on Bill Burford's Gradually Going Tornado on a song called Land's End. And then she shows up on an album called Gilgamesh with Phil Miller from this band, National Health, but she doesn't sing that many songs. And there's another album called Missing Pieces, which she's all over, and Bill Burford's playing drums. So it's like, you know, there's very little Amanda Parsons out there, and also pictures to see her, you know, what she looks like and stuff. She's very private, I guess, but her voice, I mean, she sings at a register so high sometimes, like Minnie Riperton kind of thing, if you know who that is from Rotary Connection. I mean, I just love Amanda Parsons. So yeah, Annie Haslam, Karen Lawrence, Amanda Parsons, three-way tie. You can't go wrong.
Nice. Very cool.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks, Rand.
Yeah, you're
That's
welcome.
great as always. All right, so we've got Joe up next. Joe, thanks for dropping in, and we'll throw it over to you. Top 3 female vocalists that leave you
I would
entranced.
just like to say, out of all the panels I've been on, this is the most difficult one for me of all time, because female vocalists literally have a siren effect on me. If I hear a female vocalist, I'm in. Kate Bush. I'm not a huge Peter Gabriel guy. Kate Bush sings with Peter Gabriel. I'm all in. I can't stop listening to the song. Same thing like John Waite, Change. I listen to it constantly because of the female vocalist. Pet Shop Boys, do not like them, but when I hear What Do I Deserve to Deserve This with Dusty Springfield, I'm in. I'm probably going to go contrarian here because I'm going to go really pop. My favorite female vocalist, actually, I can't include because it's Wendy Williams, but I don't put her in the female category. I shouldn't say that, but I don't know. Does it make sense? I mean, I'm a huge Plasmatics fan, but I can't rank her in this category. But it's female vocalist, I'm all in. Like, yeah, Kate Bush, Annie Lennox, Blondie, the Patti Smythe solo stuff. It's all good. Madonna, I've seen many times, but my top 3, this is really tough. Yeah, I love Annie. Annie Lennox almost made it, but number 3 is going to be Ann Wilson, because the early Heart, literally, I was like, when I heard Magic Man, I was like, what? This is incredible. And then I saw them live, and I had front row for the Babel Strange tour, and I swear she made contact with me, eye contact, and I was in love. And I was, you know, what a voice, but she still brings it live. Number 2, not a great singer, but I don't know, something about her, especially the Rock Candy Baby album. I'm going to put Gwen Stefani in there. I just, you know, she kind of, I just like what she does, whether it's solo or with the No Doubt stuff. I just really enjoy it. Number 1 by far, and this is a guilty pleasure. I really enjoy Kelly Clarkson. And it's all her hits, all her pops. She has all her pop songs. She has a great voice. It's just hooky tunes. I enjoy listening to it. I was supposed to go see a residency in Vegas, but it got canceled in 2020. I hope she does it again because I'm there. I'm going to get front row. But yeah, that's my number 1. But it's hard because I'm telling you, if it's like Smashing Pumpkins, one of my favorite songs is Daydream because the bass player sings it, right? You know, Metallica with Marianne Faithfull. Love that song. I can listen to it constantly because there's a woman vocalist on it. So there's something with a woman's voice that just brings me in, and it's all good to me. But if I had to rank my top 3 right now, and it'll probably change in 5 minutes, that would be my top 3.
Awesome.
Pretty
Well,
cool.
that was great. Thanks, Joe. All right. I think only Andee had honorable mention, so we'll give Bill and Peter. Had you planned on giving any honorable mentions?
By the way, Andee plays with one of the greatest of all time, with Blondie. You know, that Blondie, I'm all in. Love her.
I was going to ask him about that, but I didn't want to put him on the spot on camera when the boss might be watching.
I wanted to say too, I play in another band with one of my favorite female singers, KMFDM, Lucia Cifarelli. This is her solo album from last year. She can purr like a kitten and she can scream like a fucking banshee. She will take paint off the walls when she gets, into that mode. We played, we just toured, and every night we would finish with our song Paradise, and it would just raise the hair on my arms when she leaned into that song every night. So yeah, just a couple of shout outs. I have to put them both in there. And Debbie Harry is out there, 77 years old, no backing tracks. She is 100% the real deal. So yeah.
I've got a couple of honorable mentions, Nick.
Me too.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. So let's go around and Bill, we'll start with you again. Let's hear your honorable mentions.
All right, just a quick comment beforehand. I just wanted to thank or to state how cool it is that we went through each of our top three and there was not a single repeat. That is awesome.
Great.
So let's see. I've had a couple of my ands mentioned already in the honorables, Wilson and Haslam. So I'm going to go ahead and go a little bit more obscure for a different Ann, Lori Ann House. She's been in multiple projects. I haven't heard from her in a number of years, but she was in a band called Ephemeral Sun for their first album, Broken Door, in 2004. It's kind of a gothic metal band, progressive metal. She had her own band called Toads Bondin'. They put out an EP and a full length in the mid 2000s, and she has also been involved in Autumn Tears. She was the sole vocalist on their album in 2007, The Halloween. She is a very operatic vocalist, and yeah, her voice definitely has an entrancing effect on me. I really need to find out what she's been up to, because I haven't checked in on her in a long time, and hopefully there's some cool stuff out there, because I love these albums. And another quick one. The only copy of anything physical I have close to hand is this crappy compilation, but the wonderful Nina Simone, especially live, when you hear her singing things like Pirate Jenny or Mississippi Goddamn, or it's just, wow. That is like a time capsule. It takes me to another place in time. And Nina was one of a kind. And I'll throw in one more. I'll do a little censoring here. This is the most recent album by Amanda fucking Palmer. Member of the Dresden Dolls and a wonderful solo artist. She's collaborated with Edward Caspell and so many others. She entrances me by virtue of her very personality, her wonderful storytelling qualities. My wife and I saw her in 2019, just her and her piano. Nice, Andee. And her storytelling. She did more storytelling than singing. She played one song with the ukulele, but that is a contender for the greatest concert experience that I've ever had in my life. It was just moving. We literally laughed and cried. It was just, wow. That whole experience was entrancing. So big thumbs up to Amanda. Maybe she should have been in my top three now that I think about it. Yeah. She's here now.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Bill. That was great. Peter, we're going to go to you for your honorable mentions next.
Okay, I'll do these rather quickly. Some of these just kind of speak for themselves. I have to honorable mention Pat Benatar. Obviously been there since her stuff came out, if anybody's of a certain age, and grew up with her. Great band, great singer, incredible material. She can still bring it today. If you watch her Rock and Roll Hall performance from a couple months ago, just she's untouchable. Another one that my mom introduced me to that's been a permanent part of my musical life, Barbra Streisand. Everything she's done is spectacular. Just one of the greatest voices of all time. I want to mention a quick shout out to one of the ones that I think has one of the most angelic voices and subtle and soothing voices I've ever heard, and that's Katie Lang. Her Ingenue album, if you have not heard that all the way through, it is mesmerizing. She's such a gentle soul. Lots of hints of Patsy Cline. So if there's reincarnation, Patsy's in there because she took what she had and took it a different direction. But the last one is one I really want to give a shout out to my late mom. She introduced me to Ima Sumac. Now you're all going, who in the bloody world is that? She was from the 50s and 60s. Her story is that she was a Peruvian or an Incan princess. She was famed for the longest time to have the widest range of any singer ever. There were singers who could sing higher, but couldn't sing nearly as low. And there are singers who could sing lower, who could not touch her upper range. It's very South American. It's got that Mayan, Incan kind of feel to them. A lot of these are not in English. Full orchestrations. She sings from like Mariah Carey, that super high crazy thing, and the next she'll be way down low, way down here. Unbelievable control. And my mother used to play these all the time. And that album cover scared the crap out of me because I had no idea what that was. But they were on all the time. We didn't understand the words. We'd make them up. And all my siblings, all we have to do is mention Ima Sumac and we'll all say the same made up lyric that we made up in whatever language we thought it was, which we didn't understand. But as I got older and dove back into them, these are just some outstanding records. Most of these were on Capitol. These are prime releases, and she was a huge, huge star during this time. So Ima Sumac, thank you, mother.
All right, awesome. So I'm assuming everyone that went after Andee didn't have any honorable mentions, or did you guys have anyone you wanted to throw out there? Martin, you got anything? Yeah. Rand's got something. Okay, let's go. We'll go Papa Meat, then Rand, and then if no one else has any honorable mentions, we'll wrap it up. But sorry, Uncle Meat, wrong name.
No problem. Okay, quickly. Sarah McLachlan. A lot of people probably recognize her for her more known stuff, but her first three albums are actually quite dark in comparison, and some good vocals there. Someone named Natalie Merchant, who was in a band called 10,000 Maniacs, and I always really loved her voice. Sade, which the album Lovers Rock is just great. Let's see, PJ Harvey, the Andrews sisters, Lisa Del Bello, Bjork, which I'm surprised hasn't been mentioned, Billie Holiday, Eva Cassidy, and the last one that what Joe said about Kelly Clarkson, another American Idol person, a girl by the name of Haley Reinhart. She's been doing these things with something called Postmodern Jukebox, and I really like what she does with her voice. And yeah, that's pretty much.
I thought for sure you're going Carrie Underwood.
Nah, no. Yeah.
You know, for my honorable mentions are just like, telling you, 95% of the female singers out. Most of you guys named all of them, and there's other one like Cyndi Lauper is awesome. Madonna, you know, I like it all. So yeah.
All right, awesome.
Yeah, I'm glad. Who brought up? A couple of the other ones. Was it Peter? Who did you bring up as one of yours?
Linda Ronstadt.
Right. But one of your honorable
Karen Carpenter.
Yeah, definitely. But one of your honorables what was
Oh, Pat Benatar, Katie Lang, Barbara Streisand.
Katie Lang? Yes, definitely. And Pat Benatar was a game changer for sure. Yeah.
Nice. Awesome. Rand, you had one you wanted to do?
Yeah, I have two real quick ones. And also Martin, Judy Dibble, the first time I ever heard her was on an album called The Young Person's Guide to King Crimson. She sings an alternative version of I Talk to the Wind, and I really liked her voice. So I can't believe I forgot to ever hear you. Oh my God. So these next two have a Yes connection. Okay, the first album is, I don't even know if you can see it, it's called Esquire. This came out in 1987. This lady right here in the middle, that's Nikki Squire. That's Chris Squire's ex-wife. And he produced this album and it sounds phenomenal. And it's very good. And if you like Yes, like 90125, big generator type Yes, you'll love this album, Esquire. Then recently, Pete Pardo turned me on to this band called Fragile. The lady named Claire Hamill singing. And the first time I ever heard her was on the Steve Howe album in 1979. She did a song called Look Over Your Shoulder. This one's called Beyond. The other one's called Golden Fragments. You have to get these at Bandcamp. They're not available anywhere else, but these are so good. If you love Yes, you'll love this album. They got like the first song on this album is 21 minutes long and 3 songs on the whole album. This is phenomenal stuff. Claire Hamill is incredible.
Nice. I'll use my honorable mention time very quickly to just say again, check out these trails. I mean, this is the part of this is you know, if any of you checked out any of this stuff and got into it, I mean, 3 songs on here, I would say Of Broken Links sounds like the soundtrack to like witches stirring a cauldron. I fantasize that about that being King Diamond's entrance music. And Rapt Attention, where she goes Conception at the end. It's just the most gorgeous thing. And Hello Lou on that. And then 3 on Trader Horn. I would say this is also creepy, sort of weird folk. I would say check out. It's all on YouTube. You could go hear it. Growing Man, In My Loneliness, and yeah, I would say The Mixed Up Kind. And then also just the last one is the Ghost album. The album's called When You're Dead 1 Second. The opening track is called When You're Dead. It'll turn your hair white. And A Night of the Warlock is a very kind of satanic, weird one. And then Hearts and Flowers is just really creepy, again, weird folk. So yeah, check out those 3 albums.
All right.
I will.
Awesome. All right. Well, we got tons and tons of female vocalists there. Suggestions, recommendations, honorable mentions. Just a wealth of suggestions for you to go check out at home. And, you know, the conversation isn't over. We want to hear from you as well. And you know, in the comments, you're not limited to 3 and honorable mentions. You can type as many as you want. So we look forward to that. If you like the content, you can give a like and subscribe. There's stuff in the description. You know, you remember from the beginning, I'm sure. And I want to thank all of our panelists for being here. This was a jam-packed panel. We had lots of people here today, and everyone really, you know, brought a lot to the table. So thank you to all of you. Thank you to you at home. And yeah, whether you know, you're having it's night, day, or morning, have a good one. And thanks for being here.
Thanks, guys. Talk to you later.
Cheers, everyone.
See ya.
Yeah.
Bye.